So we can start with an icebreaker, guys. So what do we call a website that sings? This is my question for you today. You can answer it in the comment section. You can answer it after this. Yeah, so we can go to the next slide. So website development basically is the process of creating websites and web applications which are meant to be consumed by users on the internet. So we can go through, the types of web development. We have front-end, back-end, and full stack. So essentially, front-end is what users see, what they interact with, all those, the text, the colors, the whole format, the whole layout, how it is. It's the visual part of the website, including the design and user interaction. So that's the front-end. So if you hear someone say, I'm a front-end developer, it means this is basically what they create. And then backend essentially is just the behind-the-scenes part of our website. It will include the server side, operations, and database management. Now, a server essentially is where information is stored. The information we access online, it is stored somewhere physically for you to be able to access it online. So a server basically is a computer which is usually online 100, like all the time it's online, there's backup. So a server essentially what it will do, you can host a website on this computer, but then now whenever you shut down this computer, the website will go down. But now a server runs throughout. So it is where we store all these websites and the databases. A database is just, it's like a file or an inventory. Like now you get where all this information is stored. If information is input into the website by users, it is stored on a database. So we have, mainly we deal with SQL and NoSQL databases. And then our full stack is the proficiency in both front-end and back-end development, which means creating end-to-end solutions. So for full stack, for example, So essentially, if a client comes and they need a website which, for example, sells shoes for them, and then we make that for them, that is full stack development, because the website is going to have the visual aspects and then the behind the scenes. If it's making sales and all that, it's processing information and all that. So there has to be a database which is built, all those connections. We have APIs, which basically just, it's like communicating between your servers and other servers so that you can be able to like share resources. So for example, when we integrate something like Brevo, so APIs and all that, but even if it was but today we're talking about the fundamentals. Yeah.
So someone can build a front end without building a back end. You build a front end, you give someone else to do back end.
Exactly. You don't now it works almost sort of like concurrently, and that's why we usually have project managers. So for like complex projects, for example, for WhatsApp, the way you're talking about, usually the people who create the buttons, interact with those emojis, all that, are different from the people who handle the backend. So someone can be a full stack developer, a front end, or a backend developer. You get. So essentially, the front end developers work with the backend developers in order to come up with a whole project. So they work hand in hand. So the front end, like, they have to decide on what architecture they'll use, the languages they'll use. Usually we call them like stacks. Like it's like a set of languages which will, like, it depends on what you're building. What you're building usually determines the stack you use. But now that is a bit more complex. But what she's asking is, so they can be someone different who handles the front end, someone different who handles the back end, and then now they work together to come up with a whole website. You get, because some people have like for example, when we did JavaScript, we had to do the Figma. So that is part of the front end where it's just basically the designing. So Simon, for example, can design the whole layout, either on Figma, Adobe XD, even on Adobe Photoshop. They just design, they move to boxes and everything, and then they come up with like a visual design where the front-end developer will interpret this and turn this into something sort of like a skeleton, which it's a form, but the form can't do anything until the backend developer comes and connects this form to a database and all that. So yeah, it can work like, it usually works like that, whereby we have, depending on the scale of the project, we usually have a different front-end developer, back-end developer, and then full stack, and then you can have someone like DevOps or project managers to make sure they work seamlessly and all that. Yeah, we can move on. So now we're talking to now the types of languages. So we have HTML, which is hypertext markup language. So this basically is just the building blocks for web pages. So whenever you go to a website and there's that text which is there, it's usually HTML which does that. And then now, for that text to be centered or justified, or you get, like for example, if you are making a Word document and then you write, we can say you're scripting if you are doing that like on something like VS Code. Like VS Code is what you usually use to write code. So if you are making a HTML, let's say we want to create an introduction, a web page called boardroom. So we'll call it boardroom.html. This is a HTML file, which when we script, now you just put, basically is where you put the words. But once you put these words, you want to style them. On Microsoft Word, you'll just go and press a button and then it will either center them, do all that, those indentations and all that, putting tabs. But now for web development, we'll do that with CSS, which usually basically just brings style to the web pages. So this is the building blocks for the web pages, is HTML, CSS, it brings style to the web page. So for example, if we remove CSS from, if this was a web page and we remove CSS from this web page, the white and the blue will disappear and then it will just be text. And the text, you'll realize sometimes if a web page doesn't load correctly, you'll see like it's like everything is just text and then they're like following one straight line, because it's just the HTML which picked it. It means the CSS didn't load properly. So whenever you're making a website, you can design a web page with HTML and CSS, but now this one will be displaying information and the information will be styled. So if you want to add like an image and all that and style that image, you can use both these languages. So moving forward, we have now CSS does the styling and designing, which just creates visually appealing web pages with CSS, customized fonts, colors, layouts, just to make your website stand out and have that form of uniformity or like a style. And then and then CSS also will help you when you're doing a responsive design. This one, for example, is if we are using my MacBook, you'll see the screen size, so the text, it fits perfectly. If it comes here and then we load a web page here, it fits perfectly. If we use your phone, it fits perfectly. If you use, for example, an iPhone, it fits perfectly. So this one are usually media queries, which you do with CSS. It does.
Yeah. Like the one you have.
Like the one
The Android you have.
currently.
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, it will also do that.
Does it work the same for Android and iOS?
Usually, how it does is you set media queries according to the screen size in PX. Yeah.
So it's just screen size.
Yeah, but yeah, there's usually differences when you are developing. If you want your website to accommodate like both of them correctly, you have to add some things for like all these different devices. Yeah, so because for example, MacBooks use Retina displays and all that. So there's a way you put that information there. So if you're doing, for example, a favicon size for regular devices, you have to do 2x for example.
For regular? No, I'm asking for
like everything which is into iOS. Yeah.
For regular devices, you mean even the phone that you have right now, the Android?
Yeah. Okay. Let's move back to CSS guy. Yeah. So basically, build websites that adapt to different screen sizes, as I was explaining. With CSS, you can create responsive layouts that provide optimal user experience and a user experience across devices. So this one, CSS helps out with the UI and UX. So UI is the user interface, UX is the user experience. User experience basically is you go to some websites and you find it's more interactive to spend time on that website. But you can go to some other websites and they are very, you find yourself just naturally not spending time there because it's not designed for you to like, there's no that good user experience. So CSS will help you achieve that. We can move forward to now JavaScript. Basically, it adds interactivity. When you're scrolling, JavaScript. Script, yeah. JavaScript. Java. JS. Guys. JavaScript when you're scrolling. So it's JavaScript allows you to add dynamic elements to your web pages, making them more engaging and interactive. Sometimes you see like a button is like there's that animation in, out, it's bouncing, like those two effects. It makes it more, yeah, it's like now a step further. Now from just improving the user experience, now you're making the website a bit more interactive. So those two small details usually is JavaScript. But then now you can use JavaScript for the front end side, but you can also use it for the back end. So people are kind of transitioning from PHP to JavaScript nowadays because it's a bit, yeah, the cool people with JavaScript. But anyways, I'm still team PHP. All this gold. So with JavaScript, you can create complex features like form validation, animations, interactive maps to enhance user experience. Like when you go to a website and then you see there's a maps there integrated, and then you click on it and then it goes to your maps. That is, JavaScript does a lot of work there. And then usually when you're filling a form, or let's say for example, you come to me because you forgot your password, yeah? And then now you're trying, you've written your username, you write your password, it tells you password is incorrect. So that is basically form validation. That is JavaScript. Whenever, let's say, I've written for you clearly phone number, and then you write your email there, and then it shows you like a red error. That is JavaScript. So the difference between JavaScript and PHP is JavaScript handles it on the web browser, your own browser. But for PHP to get a response, it is done on the server side. So usually PHP has to like reload the page for it to, but for JavaScript, it is the browser which does it. So it's almost like it does it instantly. And then so it's adding interactivity and then powerful functionality. Yeah, so validation, animations, interactive. Yeah, so we can move forward. So now these are basically the front-end frameworks. So a framework basically is, how do I explain a framework? We can have a language like, we can have something like JavaScript, but then a group of developers went ahead and came up with sort of like a library of this and this. We are using it in this type of way, and there's this sort of like a layout where if someone is using, for example, React, every time they have to do something, they have to follow like a certain type of architecture. Yes, there's the language which they're using, but now this one goes a step further, and it sort of like combines all these libraries to make it, to bring some sort of like all this like functionality to bring some sort of like uniformity. So we have React, and it's best because it has like a very powerful UI library. And then Angular is best for full-featured MVC framework. So this one is like model view controller. I'll explain this one, and then Vue.js is lightweight and versatile. You can move forward. Now for the backend technologies, we have the server-side languages, and then relational databases, and then the NoSQL. So server-side languages, powerful programming languages like Python, Java, and Node.js. And then for relational databases is, if you remember back in the day using Access, it used to use MySQL. So something similar to that. And then now, so we can either have like the SQL databases or the NoSQL databases. So for this one, if we have more of these sessions, I can dig deeper into that. And then moving forward. Yeah, so responsiveness and mobile optimization. So you have, whenever you're developing websites, you have to make sure that they adapt to different devices. So this one, according to what we've discussed before, you're using things like CSS and media queries to make sure if Marilyn uses this on her phone, it will work. The website will work, and then if she goes on her laptop, it will still like it will still like fill the screen properly, and it is still something which is easy for her to understand.
Am I the only one struggling to see?
The size.
Maybe
Now
without them, I
User
can't
experience,
see them.
feedback.
that is taken into yeah, usually we have standard fonts for this, but now for people with we can always this is on our side.
Use on TV.
No, I'm saying this is on our side, so we have to improve the user experience. So optimal viewing experience, like the way you're not. So yeah, and that's why we have website development methodology. So during testing, we bring the website here, and then you're like, hey, I can't see. So that is how now you go and make those two changes.
Also, the changes might include you including the dark mode
and all that, yeah. And then improve user engagement through mobile-friendly design. When a website is designed to work better for you, you find yourself spending more time there. If you go to TikTok, the UI and UX basically just makes you can go to TikTok to watch one video, but the way it is developed, it will just keep you there because of they're using all of these concepts to come up with one end product. So we can move forward. So we can just go to the key takeaways and then. So the way TikTok is designed. So let me give you an example. You can take a video in landscape mode or portrait. So TikTok usually tries and make sure the videos are in portrait. Yeah, they will try and make sure the videos are in portrait. They try and hide a lot of the text, because you can even watch a video and it takes you some time before. It's very easy to watch a video without even reading the comment. And then they make sure they like the whatever, it's all to the side. So they are optimizing that the viewing experience for you. Yeah, that's how they keep you in the website. So when they do that, and then they add things like they use algorithms to make sure, for example, if it's Marilyn, they'll bring her maybe things to do with, what do you like? Social media, fun things, Yeah, and then, for example, if it's Ian, height improvement strategies, and all that. So yeah, so we can move forward. Sorry for that. We can move forward.
That was unnecessary.
Yeah.
That's mine, boy.
So the key takeaways is, if you want to dive into web development, you have to know the basics, like essentials. Like this is the way, if you want to be an accountant, you have to know those mathematical formulas and all that. So this should be at your fingertips. Like HTML, CSS, JS, if you want to like maybe front-end and a bit of backend. And then now for backend proficiency, you have to know either PHP, Python, Node. Usually you just pick a track which I usually advise people just pick a side, and then now you just be the best at that. And then now the design principles, you need to understand how to create user-friendly websites. You can go see how good websites are developed. You can just pick something from trends. You can go, there's like awards. You can go see how the best, like these awarded websites, how they are. And then version control basically is, you see, whenever, like after some time WhatsApp, you can't access it, they tell you need to update. This is because they usually realize that there's like something they can do better. Because whenever you're creating these things, you make versions. So you can have version 1, 2, 3, all the way to like infinity, depending on how many users you have and how long it's going to last. So version control basically is coming up with like those like sort of versions where users can go update. They have now better security features. For example, if you look at how Instagram was when it started out to how it is right now, there's so many changes. They didn't just do that instantly. They did that with versions. The more users interact with the website, they get feedback, they can see users are falling off from this part of the website, we can improve that, we can make this better, we can make this. So for example, the way she told me she can't read whatever is on the screen right now. So for the now, for us to make the next changes and like push that to the live view, that is like a sort of version control. And then security awareness basically is implementing security measures like SSL and TSS and TLS, which usually when you open a website and then on the left side there's usually a padlock there. So whenever you go to a website and you don't see that padlock, you have reasons to don't put your information there. Actually, it's just advisable, not unless you are like, see, for someone like me, if it's a website I'm developing, I've not yet installed an SSL certificate, I can just continue using. But for users, we advise them to stay away from websites without SSL. So SSL is basically like a standard. Your website has to like sort of like pass these checks, and then you're given like a certificate. That certificate is usually, so whenever you go to a website, you see that padlock, you can click on it. So you see the certificate, you can see all that information. So it's like your browser is sort of trying to
The padlock that inakujanga hapo kwa not secure.
Exactly.
So that is where we click to find the information that's secure.
Yeah. Ukishaona not secure, ishakwambia you have reasons to not enter personal information there. Because there's a lot of things which come with web development. There's things like phishing. You might go to a website which looks exactly like the website you want to go to, but there's something different with the URL. But it is very hard for a user to know it.
Yeah.
So like for like regular users, maybe they didn't check the URL, and then for example, it's a clone for PayPal, and then everything else is the same. But when you enter data there, they pick it, and then they use that data to now enter into the actual site. And this is why we usually advise you to have things like multi-factor authentication. So what that does is, even if you log in with your password, you still need a code for you to, and the code changes real time every 30 seconds.
So the multi-factor authentication is on the side of the developer to
The
ensure
side of
that
the user.
It's on the user side.
like there's a way for you to do that.
Yeah, so like for
Or
instance, when you log in into your work email, I believe most of the time it asks you for a code.
Yeah.
As much
To
as
your
you
phone,
put in
yes.
the right email and password. So now there are different applications like Google Authenticator, Microsoft Authenticator. So you have authentication codes whereby if you log in, it asks you a code, and then you go into that application and then you pick the code. The reason, so SMS.
But that part I know.
Yeah.
What I'm asking is it because see, there are websites or apps that do not have that multi-factor. So is
Yes.
it the role of the developer to ensure or to create such options?
Yeah, so it's the role of the developer to have that option in the application of the website, but then it's the responsibility of the user to enable that, because most websites nowadays, especially where you're logging in and has your information, they have that option whereby you enable that two-factor authentication. So now it's upon you to go into the application, go to your user settings, enable
Because
that.
if I don't enter my phone as another verification.
So it's one of SMS is just one of the ways, but then now we have different authentication applications. And the reason why we have authentication applications also, SMS is not the most secure way, even for banks. So the most secure way because there's a way hackers can bypass SMS coming to your phone. Right?
So I have a request. Can you train us on cybersecurity next time?
Sure, I can come up with something. Because usually, sometimes even the type of passwords you see people putting, it's a bit scary. Your password cannot be password 1.
Because
1, 2, 3, 4, 11,
Let me
22.
ask, is it Chrome or something? Show because Google, I understand that Google is implemented security measures, but will all websites that are not secure or cloned ones, like you said, will they give you that padlock?
They'll try. There are some which might, but they'll try. Because nowadays Chrome is it's very. I've realized the security measures are like, but what you can do, for example, you see, it is always good to know how the correct URL of the website you're going to. For example, here I'm on docs.google.com. So if you go, if you're, for example, in a similar page, everything is the same here, but you're seeing docs dot maybe GOO dot GLE dot, you get this,
the
you
mini
see,
dots.
yeah, you feel like there's something different in the way the URL is, then you know there's something which is going on.
So are there specific elements you should be looking for in the URL to see whether it's, like you said, it's
Yeah, you
because
can.
like here there's no the HTTP icon.
Icon, even now we are when you click here, so you see it's telling us the connection is secure, and then certificate is valid. You can click on the certificate. Common name is google.com, issued by CTS. You can see the organization is Google Trust Certificate LLC.
So I should always click this to see.
Yeah, if you're doing something a bit important or something like that, it will give you all this information. And then now, even from here, you can be able to see who it was issued to. So for example, if you see issued to, and then the google.com maybe has 3 O's before you know there's an issue. But usually Google will pull these things down almost immediately whenever someone tries. But now you know the thing with cybersecurity, usually you realize it's just about trying to find vulnerabilities. So they never get tired. It's the same way if you're trying to defend, you also have to try. You have to be, exactly, you have to be very keen.
Thank you.
And then, yeah. So the next step is explore advanced topics. You can dive into advanced concepts like frontend and server-side frameworks, cloud services, microservices architecture. You can build projects. If you can format a Word document, you can do HTML. It's just hazijachana mbali. And then you can expand your skills.
If you can format a Word document, as a code developer.
And then network and collaborate. Portfolio development basically is just having that. This is the first website I did. This was some time back, and then you list all the websites you've done. So this one helps you when you're trying to get clients and all that. So for the other definitions, we still have time. I can continue.
You said about Python. It's a backend thing.
Yeah, server side. Python and Java are very similar in terms of what you achieve
What's
while
the
you're
difference between Python and JavaScript?
Hey, Buddha.
Python is a snake.
CG, and I'm just asking.
JavaScript. Let me try. No, Python in Java. So Java ni what I mean nitakwambia Java ni ya kitambo, Python ni ya siku hizi. So Python is a bit simpler in terms of it's a bit simpler, but it's not simple. But basically, for example, what you can achieve with 3 pages with Java, Python you can do it in like a single page. But now you still have to understand the basics. You still have to understand how data structures and algorithms. And then once you know this, you need to have basics in like a bit of basics in Java. You can learn Python, you can be working with Python, but it's not it's a bit simpler, but it's not that simple still. So Java was used a lot kitambo, and then Python came, but Java still does a lot of all these complex systems you interact with. They have a lot of Java.
That's like you talked about the backend and the front-end technologies. You said you expanded it another time.
Yeah, if you guys are interested, sure. Yeah, we can't dive on it right now. We can, but it will be very basic. So I wanted us to go through some definitions of things we use like here.
I may have given an explanation, but just to explore more the difference of
Python and
Java. So when it comes to programming languages, there are languages. So normally an architecture of a website, rather use, or even the mobile application you use, is the user interface which you're interacting with. Behind that now there is a logic part where like if you click a button, how it translates and all of that. Kuna few layers, but the most important is the user interface, where the logic is happening, and where the database is. So that's where we normally call server side. So some languages like JavaScript, the way it's designed, you can do a lot of things. Like JavaScript, you entered the information, maybe your password is incorrect, right? So that now it means takes your information, takes them to the server, cross-checks the information, the one you provided with the one that, let's say, is in the database, and gives you back that response. So if the credentials are not matching, it brings back the response, credentials not matching. If they're okay, it logs you in. So now that's server side.
Yeah, here we talked about that.
Oh,
So it's from the front end to the server to the database.
yeah. It's normally, whenever you are interacting with any application, kuna kuangana like 3, 4, 5 steps before anything happens. Click, if you're switching pages, it has to go to the server side and be like, Rolex has requested this page. So now let's give him the response. So now the browser loads.
It does that in second or micro.
Microseconds. Yeah.
So basically that domain you're interacting with is like, for example, you have this office. We all know it's located here. But if you want to send someone here, they can't know where the office is if you don't give them an address. So that domain basically is an address. So this address, it's relating to the server which we are talking about. So essentially we'll have the server, which I told you basically is just a computer. This computer has an IP address. So you can enter an IP address to go to access what's in that server. But now to make it a bit easier for users, now we have domains. So when you enter that domain, the browser will process that and know this domain relates to this browser. For example, when we enter this number and then we call, we know this number belongs to Marilyn. So the domain basically, it's just like become a number plate ya gari, ama address ya where we are right now. And then our server essentially is where this HTML, CSS, JS files, where they're stored. That's the server. It's a computer. So a web page basically is a document that is suitable for web browsers. So usually you can find it in .html, the way I explained it. It is usually written in HTML and can contain various forms of media such as text, images, videos, and elements. A URL, it's a uniform resource locator. So a URL basically is, if we go to google.com, we can go to our website. Wait. Because it's uniform. There has to be that standard.
Oh, so like anything published on Madavi, whether it's blog, whether it's the industries, uniform.
Yeah, because it's using the same. You get. Let me explain it in a few.
In layman's.
You're not logged in today. Am I done? To the website, yeah, Madavi. Okay. So this one up here. This one is this one is a URL. So the .co, forgot the actual name for it. Basically, it can either be .co, .info, .org, .co.ke. So it gives you more information about what this Madavi actually is. So if it was .org, you'd know it's organization. If it's .ngo, you know it's an NGO. If it's .online or .store, you get, yeah, exactly. So .co.ke will tell you that it's for Kenya. .com is like now globally. So HTTPS, so for example, the SSL I was telling you about, if there's no S here, it shows you that there's no SSL certificate. So the first way to know is you'll see there's no S here. And then now when you click on here, you can see we have it tells you the connection is secure. Cookies and site data basically, I know you people don't love cookies, but as developers and
these days they are forcing them down our throats.
Yeah, because it's like a standard we have to. Because cookies essentially is, instead of storing the data on our servers, we store part of it. It's still on our servers, but we store part of it on your web browser or your phone browser. So you'll realize the first time you load a website is really, really slow. But if it's a website you use frequently, it loads very fast. Or for example, you're logging into our company website, and then you realize, when you click on the form, there's the username and the password. it saved that. So we have to ask for your permission to save that information on the browser. You get. So cookies basically just allows the developer to save that information on the browser, so that whenever now you're processing information on the website, the next time it loads a bit faster. That's why usually you might wonder how complex a website might seem, but it loads very fast and it operates very fast. It's because we use things like cookies to ensure that it's just to improve your user experience. But then now, nowadays we'll ask for consent and permission. So whenever you don't want them, you can just deny. But allowing them will make your website load faster, and you'll be able to, it'll give you more.
But then I think see most of the time the cookies, when you accept some of them, they give you those information, like probably you're searching for something which is not, you've logged in into certain article which you probably don't want to look at it again. But then when you accept the cookies, they bring that information to your browser. So that's what cookies do.
But
So cookies are normally a double-edged sword. On one sense, they optimize the user experience. So Michael has said,
tracking.
Over time it improves because it already knows like what you're going to click. It already logs that. And then on the other side, on the advertiser's front, it now gives them access. Not like this is Kahai, this is what she's looking for. It will give them like a map of these are the kind of people who are looking for this product. So if you keep going to look for, let's say, cosmetics like lipstick, different websites, once you accept the cookies, now, let's say if you accept cookies on Madavi's website, right? And Madavi is working, has enabled Google Ads to run ads on our website. It means what Google does is it comes and looks at the cookies on Madavi's website and tells advertisers, hey, you guys are selling like maybe link products. There's this person who came to Madavi's website looking for different products, let's say lipstick and all of that. They will be the best person to market to, right? So on one side, it helps you in really optimizing that experience. On the other side,
that's a downside.
It's not really a downside because advertising is normally two ways. If someone advertises you something that you really need, it shortens your purchase cycle. If someone keeps advertising to you things that you don't want, it now becomes a nuisance, right?
Yeah.
So it works both ways. So it's like something for everyone.
I was saying it's a downside because if I'm looking at an article that probably it's not content that I would want, I'm just looking at it because I'm just searching something at the time. If I accept the cookies, then I'll be getting that content and it's not what I want.
So it mostly works for display ads. So display ads is where like you're going on a different, like a Madavi website, you're seeing products
Also, it's
from
not such
Jumia.
a big thing.
It's not.
But then,
Okay.
what is it that these days most websites, they don't give you the option to decline, but to manage the cookies. So you have to accept some cookies.
Because also the pressure is coming from also this policy bodies, right? Because let's say Communication Authority of Kenya comes to Madavi today and they're like, hey, someone complained that you've been sending them newsletters, right? And they didn't accept. So what do you have to say about that? Legally, you can be sued, right? So the reason why people are putting the options to be like very strict, like there's no way you only have to accept it. It's like because you're coming to our website and you need to use your information for especially that marketing material. So it's like either you accept it or you leave.
So you leave, yes, exactly.
The crackdown is also on now advertisers on platforms, people who have platforms and so on. So also for them, kitambo ingekuwa I decline, alafu ukipata umepata sema umeenda kwa Jumia umeka I decline. Ukipata uko kwa newsletter ya Jumia, legally you can sue them. But now it's like yeah, because you declined, but then they still don't have
They chat.
But now it's like not for them because it's a lot of work to start sifting through like many declining and accept. It's like what
so acceptance when they
everyone has to accept.
So how will you prove that you declined?
Well,
Usually
that's
when
how
you-
they're making their options
Yeah,
super
usually when
high.
you decline nowadays, it's very hard to access the website or like
Yeah.
even have the basic features.
Yeah.
Because what you have to understand, as much as we are building this website for you to enjoy and all that, website has to be maintained, has to do all that. So there has to be like sort of like you give to get or you get to
So
give.
yeah,
That's sort
technically
of,
they give convenience, but there's a price to pay.
yeah, nothing is free.
Nothing is free.
Because this data, all those ads they're running, the information they get about you, it helps them be able to
Nothing is free.
to improve. That's why Google is as efficient as it is, because they're leveraging that information they get about you to be able to get more funds for themselves and to improve the whole infrastructure. Because all of this is expensive. Everything is paid for, the servers, all that, the developers especially, all that.
Kuchini.
Yeah.
Decline.
Uh-huh.
Okay, that was interesting.
So
You're out of time.
Insightful.
yeah, I think the rest we can move on as we go. So we had our question. I don't know who will get it right. The question was, what do we call a website that sings? And we've talked about it as it was one of the last points. Yeah. It's like a link, it's like a domain. I don't know.
Secure.
What do we call a website that sings? Mm-hmm.
Shazam.
Niambia Shazam. No, I Googled and the answer was Shazam.
What are you giving the person?
Yeah.
Mtu amepata unampatia
Ryan
nini?
expects 3,000 worth of time.
Lunch.
Your 3,000 is not guaranteed.
It's not guaranteed.
Yeah.
I said it will be a vote. It's what we may decide.
So it's not guaranteed. So
Mbona mnaniangalia mkiongelea the 3,000? Me, I'm asking a simple question here. Yeah, the winner will be blessed by the God of the webs.
Are you buying someone lunch if they get it right?
Am I buying someone?
Let's be mbili.
I can buy you end month. What do we call a website?
Next week.
Yeah. What do we call a website that sings?
Nata, I don't understand why Victor was lunching.
No, me, I'm not giving the answer.
Victor is anawatetea nyinyi.
Because
Let me give you a hint. It's a web address.
A web address.
Yeah, it can call it a web address. We've talked about it among the last points. If you are writing notes, hata ukiangalia notes right now, what do we call a website that thing? It's not even on the slide because it was on my personal notes. Yeah. What do we call this? Now I'm answering. Exactly, it's an AL. An AL.